Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Welcome to episode 83 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. And this is going to be an interesting one today. Let's delve into what's happening to Joe Biden right now. He is the most far-right candidate in the Democratic field. Now, that's not saying much. It's not hard to be the most far-right Democrat in that field. That's like being the smoothest guy at Comic-Con. All right, but either way, he's the most far-right person in the Democratic field right now, so he's getting a taste, sort of a watered-down version of the media's treatment for Republicans. They usually reserve this for Republicans. This is the one and only time they're going to use it against a Democrat. So I'm going to get into that today. Please subscribe to the show on iTunes if you haven't yet. And remember that every time you subscribe to a conservative podcast, a liberal somewhere sheds a tear.
A Happy Meal? We'll get you one of those Happy Meals. You got a Happy Meal? Can we get a Happy Meal? Will somebody get the kid a Happy Meal?
Anyway, speaking of Comic-Con, I saw Spider-Man Far From Home yesterday, and I came up with a whole show about how Democrats are like the villain in the new Spider-Man movie, but, alas, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, so I scrapped that idea. But for anyone out there who did see it, let me just say, Democrats and their comrades in the mainstream media really do a good job of projecting their reality on us. That's all I'm going to say, with a little wink wink at everyone who saw the movie over the weekend. Alright, so it was another week, another plethora of false narratives projected by the mainstream media. They hate the president so much that they are willing to latch unskeptically onto any anti-Trump talking point that comes along. They don't care how nonsensical it is. They don't care how made up it is. They don't care how much they're just repeating the last person who said it. They are absolutely 100% parasitic. They take an anti-Trump talking point, they latch onto it, and they suck it dry. I think the biggest one this week was President Trump's 4th of July parade. The mainstream media criticism was that it was going to be a partisan campaign speech, a partisan campaign rally on the taxpayer dime. They haven't even heard the speech yet. They've already decided, oh my gosh, it's so partisan. They have no idea what's in it. They can't even wait to criticize the speech until the speech has happened. Several stations refuse to even air it. They refuse to air a speech by the President of the United States on Independence Day. They're just activists. That's all they are. At least one pundit was so off the rails that he was comparing Trump's parade to Tiananmen Square. That's where the Chinese government clashed with pro-democracy protesters, right? Chinese tanks fired at the protesters, and probably thousands of people were injured or killed. That particular comparison, Trump's parade is like Tiananmen Square. That particular comparison belongs to a Harvard professor named Lawrence Tribe. And I chose to pick it out because it's emblematic of how the left has totally lost any connection to logic. Right? I mean, there's going to be a tank on display at the parade. There were tanks at Tiananmen Square. Ergo, the parade is Tiananmen Square.
Nailed it.
Now, I assure you, a smart guy like Larry Tribe does not actually believe that. He just thinks that you and I are going to be stupid enough to believe that, so he says it. The media is all apocalypse 24 hours a day. Everything Trump does or says is definitely one of the four horsemen. Right? They're so fire and brimstone at this point that watching a CNN panel has become like watching one of those televangelist infomercials. I mean, there have been so many, it's hard to keep track of them. But remember, Trump gets elected. Oh, the stock market is going to crash.
We're all going to die! Ah!
Trump's tax cuts. This is Armageddon.
We're all gonna die!
Net neutrality. This is the end of the internet as we know it.
We're all gonna die!
And of course, the granddaddy of them all, Trump is definitely a secret Russian spy.
We're all gonna die!
Of course, no surprise at all if you watched President Trump's Salute to America parade. It was completely and totally nonpartisan. No tanks were rolling over anti-Trump protesters. It was simply a celebration of America. It honored the members of the armed forces. It was completely unifying. I guess all those things are partisan now. But the mainstream media, after it was over and it was nothing like their doomsday predictions, I mean, I don't know why it looked so partisan in their crystal balls, but then it didn't look like that at all in real life. What a weird phenomenon. But they're never ever going to come on TV and say, oh gosh, we're sorry, our whole entire narrative was wrong. So instead, they pretended that nobody showed up. Even though anybody who watched it saw several shots of the gigantic crowd, the place was absolutely packed. Ash Scow, a writer for the Daily Wire who was actually there, wrote a great play-by-play of her experience. I'll post the article under the episode on my Twitter feed. You should definitely read it and follow Ash on Twitter at ASHESCHOW. At Ash Scow. And she describes, part of what she describes is the crowd that we later all saw in the photographs and in the live shots on TV. It was totally packed. Liberals are living in a fantasy land. If they think President Trump can't draw a crowd, it's the Democrats who can't draw a crowd. I was listening to the news the other day and the reporter said, Bernie Sanders spoke in front of a huge crowd of 800 people today. He really said that, a huge crowd of about 800 people. I was like, please, 800 people is the porta potty line at a Trump rally. And speaking of tanks, the biggest problem for Democrats right now, and this is really what the show is about, the biggest problem for Democrats right now is that their great hope to beat President Trump, Joe Biden, is just tanking absolutely as hard as a candidate can possibly tank. Okay, he is the jebbiest jeb that ever jebbed. Joe Biden had a moment yesterday. I don't know if the mainstream media is going to ignore this or not, but it was about as terrible as it gets. All right, take a listen to this.
Look at what's happening with Putin. While Putin is trying to undo our elections, he is undoing elections in Europe. Look what's happening in Hungary. Look what's happening in Poland. Look what's happening in Moldova. Look what's happening. You think that would have happened on my watch or Barack's watch? You can't answer that, but I promise you it wouldn't have. And it didn't. So
did he just guarantee that Russian election meddling would never happen under him and President Obama?
Excuse me? Baking powder?
All right, let me try to think back here. Let's see. Who was in office in 2016 when the Russian meddling happened? Oh, it's so hard to keep track. Let's see. It wasn't Trump. Was it Bush? No, it wasn't Bush. Let's see. Who came between Trump and Bush? Somebody shout out the answer for me.
Barack and I, as president and vice president.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. I remember now. Somebody called him something funny on Fox News this morning. I'm trying to think what it was. Oh, yeah, yes. He said, the gaff man cometh. The gaff man cometh. I wish I could remember the guy's name. It was so funny. Anyway, Joe Biden is currently at 26% in the Real Clear Politics average of the polls. That is the lowest he's ever been since polling began in 2018. Less than 2 months ago, Biden was at 41.4%. Right now, 26%. He is free falling. I think the media had high hopes for Biden, but after seeing the absolute relic of a campaign that he's running, they want him out. I'm not sure where Biden got his campaign strategy from, but I will tell you where it looks like he got it from. It looks like he got it from a prehistoric mosquito that got trapped and preserved in tree sap. He took the DNA from that mosquito, and from that DNA, he created the Biden campaign, Welcome to Jurassic Campaign. Alright, so it's been a week and a half since the Democratic debates, and everything that happened has largely disappeared from the news except for Kamala Harris's 107-second assault on Joe Biden. Right? Kamala Harris was given a free 30 seconds. That was given to her even though she wasn't mentioned. That 30 seconds was stretched into a completely, entirely uninterrupted 107 seconds. That free 107 seconds wound up being the only thing in the debate that really mattered. It was like a boxing match where the round ended, but inexplicably nobody rang the bell. And Kamala, the Haymaker Harris, just kept pummeling Glass Joe. I'm not blaming Kamala. Right? I'm not blaming Kamala Harris. If the refs are going to let you keep punching, you would be stupid not to. So it's not her fault at all. Joe had a chance to respond, but what did he do? He yielded his time back.
Anyway, my time's up.
That may very well be the most profoundly accurate statement that Joe Biden has ever made.
Anyway, my time's up.
Now, back in the day, the media was protecting Biden. When Lucy Flores came out and accused Biden of touching her weirdly and being a weirdo, a lot of the media defended him against those accusations. If you can remember back that far, you'll remember all the pundits saying, I know Joe Biden personally, and this is just how he is. He's just a touchy, loving person. They were protecting him back then. Now they're not protecting him anymore. Alright, so for better or worse, a debate is going to come down to the winning soundbite, because that's ultimately how the media works. Right? Not everybody sees it. Not everybody watches the whole 4 hours of the Democratic debates, but it's all about what wins the media. And then the media shows that a million times, and everybody does end up seeing it. Alright, so it's going to come down to a winning soundbite, and Kamala Harris, with help from the moderators who inexplicably decided that she had unlimited time, she won the soundbite contest. Why didn't the moderators ring the bell on her? The rules of the debate were, you get 60 seconds to respond to a direct question, or 30 seconds to respond if somebody invokes your name. Neither of those things happened. Yet Kamala Harris was given 30 seconds because race was mentioned and she was the only black candidate on stage. I don't have a problem with that part because I think race comes up. It seems fair to me that the only black person on the stage should get to weigh in on it. But then, 30 seconds became 60 seconds. And then 60 seconds became 90 seconds. And then 90 seconds became 107 seconds. And that was all okay. Nobody even made an attempt to cut her off. The debate rules just ceased to exist because Kamala Harris was talking. And it mattered. It mattered a lot. I'm going to play this for you in 30-second increments. And it'll give you an idea what she was given by the moderators. Because it doesn't sound like that big of a deal. Oh, some extra time. But it was a huge deal. Let me show you what she did with that extra time. All right, here comes the first 30 seconds.
We will give you 30 seconds since we're going to come back to you on this again in just a moment. Go for 30 seconds.
Okay. So, on the issue of race, I couldn't agree more that this is an issue that is still not being talked about truthfully and honestly. There is not a black man I know, be he a relative, a friend, or a coworker, who has not been the subject of some form of profiling or discrimination. Growing up, my sister and I had to deal with the neighbor who told us her parents couldn't play with us because we were black.
Okay, that's what you would have heard if they had cut her off after 30 seconds. She got to give a full answer. Her argument was a strong appeal to emotion that incorporated her personal experience, and that was why she was given the time to begin with, so that the voice of a person with a unique and meaningful black experience would be heard on the question of race. Mission accomplished. That's what they gave her that 30 seconds for, and she really made the most of it, and she said a compelling thing in her 30 seconds. But nobody cut her off. So here's the next thing that she said.
And I will say also that in this campaign, we've also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden.
Okay, it's actually inexcusable that the moderators did not cut her off there when she was over her 30 seconds and she's starting a new thing and she's going to direct it at Vice President Biden. That's where the moderators really, really failed on this exchange, that they didn't cut her off right there. But nothing. The moderators were all crickets. I think they wanted to hear Joe Biden be attacked by Kamala Harris. I mean, Rachel Maddow was one of the moderators. She was the one who gave Kamala Harris the time. She's far left. She probably wants to hear somebody take out Joe Biden. There has to be some reason that time ceased to exist. I didn't see Thanos snapping his fingers. So I think Maddow wanted to see Biden be attacked. Alright, so here are the next 30 seconds of Kamala Harris's Shakespearean soliloquy.
And I will say also that in this campaign, we've also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country.
So she used the second 30 seconds, not like the first 30 seconds. She used the second 30 seconds to launch a blatantly unfair attack on Joe Biden. Okay, Joe Biden had said he was in the Senate with those guys and had to work with them, and he was able to do it even though those guys sucked. So in essence, Biden is being attacked for acknowledging that those guys existed. By the rules of the debate, Biden would now get 30 seconds to respond to that unfair attack by Kamala Harris. Those are the rules of the debate, I'm sorry. Instead, guess who the next 30 seconds belongs to? Inexplicably, it somehow belongs to Kamala Harris. So let's see what she does with her next 30 seconds.
And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously.
All right, so now with her third 30 seconds, she gets to pile on and launch another attack on Joe Biden. This one also pretty unfair. She's taking the federal busing issue and using it to try to make it sound like Biden was against desegregating schools, which he was not. Now she has gotten 90 seconds. There is no rule in this debate that ever allows any candidate 90 seconds, especially when the 30 seconds they got to begin with was just given to them despite the fact that they weren't asked a question and their name wasn't invoked. There's no rule in this debate ever that allows a candidate 90 seconds to talk. Okay, so in celebration of their total disregard for the rules, they give her another 17 seconds. And here's what she did with the last 17 seconds.
We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place a requirement that all my special agents would wear body cameras and keep those cameras on.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, you have been invoked. We are going to...
There you go. 17 seconds. She talks about the things that she's accomplished or whatever. And look, I'm not a Joe Biden fan. I don't care if Joe Biden gets knocked out of the Democratic primary. What do I care? I'm not rooting for Biden to win. For the most part, I'm not rooting for anyone to win the Democratic primary. I mean, I'd like to see Bernie Sanders not win. That would be phenomenal. Maybe he's the easiest person for Trump to beat, and I should root for him to win so that Trump can beat him easily. I don't play that game. I don't want Bernie Sanders anywhere near the presidency. That guy is dangerous as hell. I want him out now. But aside from rooting for Bernie to lose, I basically have no preference. I'm just calling it like I see it here. They allowed Kamala Harris a Shakespearean soliloquy. That's not Harris's fault. Only an idiot would just declare that their time is up and stop talking. Am I right, Joe Biden?
Anyway, my time's up.
All right, if you listen to the end of the last 17 seconds that I just played, what you'll see is that even then, the moderators didn't cut her off. Nobody ever stopped her. She made a complete speech, and the audience ended her time by applauding the speech. Otherwise, who knows how long the moderators would have let her monologue for. So now Biden gets 30 seconds to respond. And he has to respond to 2 major attacks against him. Right? And they ended up giving Biden over a minute to respond. He fumbled around and made a mess because he was trying to keep up with so much. That's on him. But then he got cut off. By who? The moderators? No. Kamala Harris cut him off and asked him a question. Then he started to answer her question and she cut him off again with another question. Then he started to respond to that, and she cut him off again. That was when he declared his time was up. Here's Biden desperately trying to respond to that.
It's a mischaracterization of my position across the board. I did not praise racist. That is not true. Number one. Number two, if we want to have this campaign litigated on who supports civil rights and whether I did or not, I'm happy to do that. I was a public defender. I didn't become a prosecutor. I came out and I left a good law firm to become a public defender when in fact my city was in flames because of the assassination of Dr. King. Number one. Number two, as the Vice President of the United States, I work with a man who, in fact, we worked very hard to see to it we dealt with these issues in a major way. The fact is that in terms of busing, you would have been able to go to school the same exact way because it was a local decision made by your city council. That's fine. That's one of the things I argued for, that we should be breaking down these lines. But so the bottom line here is, look, everything I've done in my career, I ran because of civil rights. I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
But Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision. So that's where the
federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people.
I have supported the ERA from the very beginning when I ran
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds, because I want to bring other people into this.
I supported the ERA from the very beginning. I'm the guy that extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. We got to the place where we got 98 out of 98 votes in the United States Senate doing it. I've also argued very strongly that we, in fact, deal with the notion of denying people access to the ballot box. I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
That was a complete and utter failure by the moderators. And look, Biden should have handled it better. He couldn't make out of all that time what Kamala Harris could make out of it. And that's his own fault. But look, he's getting the Republican treatment, and this is what it's like. When you're the Republican, the moderators allow everyone to attack you. They give them as much time as they want because they want them to attack you. So Biden got a taste of that, and he got a big taste of how it actually matters because then the media projects it out to everyone. And the whole story of the debate becomes Kamala the Haymaker Harris takes down Glass Joe. All right, then let me go ahead and say there is no way that Joe Biden is going to win this primary. I mean, his momentum is just headed for the basement. The media is giving him the GOP treatment now. He has no clue how to deal with it. He's already apologized for saying that those segregationist senators existed. Huge mistake. Now there's blood in the water. This guy's going down, and he's going down soon. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe on iTunes. Please leave me a review on iTunes. Every time I tweet something awesome about President Trump, all the liberals go onto iTunes and they give my podcast 1 star without having listened to it. So please cancel it out. Give me a good review on iTunes if you enjoyed the show. That's it for today. I'm out of here.
Excuse me? Baking powder?
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.